So most of the businesses I have started have been unsuccessful, 3 of them, but 2 of them I've grown to 15 million plus in revenue, one of those being Artemis. So had some good successes and failures, and I suppose definitely learned more from the failures, but that's, I suppose, why I'm qualified to talk to you about this. But we've done some analysis on over 100 stores over a 3-year period, looking at the average revenue that they generate by having a cryoskin device. The important thing about the chart is the level that you see month by month. So you see the revenue varies for the average store quite a lot depending on what month you're in. Why does revenue drop off for fat loss specifically, which is what cryoskin is mainly focused on during the winter months? One way that we look at this data is by using something called Google Trends. The amount of people searching for fat loss or cool sculpting, which is the market leader, so that's a good indicator, is pretty strong in that sort of early part of the year, still fairly strong, going into the end of the year, and then sort of drops off a lot from around September. So what can you do about this? Well, there's a few things. The first thing is to look at your product portfolio. If you have multiple modalities in your location, you are much more likely to be successful than if you are reliant on one modality. The simple reason is if you have a single customer who likes working with you, they can buy multiple products off you instead of just one. But you also help to balance out some of the seasonal effect because different types of products are appealing at different times of the year. And really, a lot of what we're trying to do in business is satisfy existing demand. So one interesting example is to look at the Google Trends data for people who are looking to build muscle. And we see that this is a lot less seasonal than fat loss. So this is one area that you could think about adding some sort of muscle building technology into your location to help balance out the seasonal effects of fat loss. The next area is facials. So facials are really in demand all seasons. We've used the Google Trends data here for acne, facial, and then peels, just to show you, that this is fairly good, consistent demand. There's actually some sort of increase during the holiday season when people are going to be seeing people for holiday parties, etc. So it can really balance out the demand drop that you see for something like fat loss. So it's a really good idea, especially as cryoskin has a great facial protocol included in it, to really think about how you're going to promote facials and maybe add facial products to your portfolio to balance out the seasonal impacts of fat loss being, much more of a seasonal business. After you've looked at your product mix and having a good choice of products and a selection of products which gives you some seasonal balance, the other thing you can think about is your marketing strategy. The first area is to think about what are you going to promote at what time of year. So as I mentioned, we are generally in the business of capturing existing demand instead of creating demand. And so you want to have marketing that's focused around the things that people want at particular times of year. So as we've shown earlier, the data shows that earlier in the year, you want to be promoting, summer body, getting ready for summer, as it's kind of after that, big holiday eating season. If you're anything like me, then January, you try to do some diet and exercise. February, you kind of give up and go like, what can I, how can I get some help with this? So that's a real great time to start, from January all the way through to the summer months, focusing on summer body type promotions. You can then move into more of the facials, etc., towards the end of the year, especially. So just to wrap up, I wanted to run through some sort of specific tips quickly. So 7 quick tips to think about if you, are worried about seasonality as we come into this kind of quieter period for fat loss. So the first thing, and we've linked these to some of our values, is to focus on providing a great service. So really think about, is everything about your location, the staff, the way they're trained, the devices that you offer, is everything excellent, as good as you can make it? So, just really monitor all these little details, listen to what your customers are saying and try to improve the overall service that you're offering. The second thing is to be aware of who else is offering what in your local market and check that the value that you are offering for the money that you charge makes sense. This doesn't mean that you need to be the cheapest, but say your location is nicer than maybe one down the street and you're a little bit more pricey, that's okay. However, if there's a really nice location, beautiful location, which is just nicer than yours down the street, and it's a lot cheaper than yours for the services, you might be priced wrong. So really think about all the value that you create and the price that you charge, and make sure that you're providing value for money. Thirdly, marketing. We find, we work with, as I said, over 1,600 locations. We find that a lot of them are great at doing the services, providing a great service for their customers, but they're really scared of the marketing, especially as it's now all digital, social media, it's kind of complicated, some of it. But you really have to either understand this yourself or bring in specialists to help you. Next is proactively plan for seasonal trends. So think about the product mix that you have and the marketing that you're going to do to capture existing demand when demand for body treatments is higher or when demand for facials is higher. Next is just always look at your costs. So as you're coming into this slower season, review every single cost in your business. One thing that I do sometimes is I just look at every invoice that the business has paid for the last 3 months, and I really ask myself, did we really need this? Try to trim back your costs where you can, and this really links to point 6. Businesses that die because they run out of cash. If you have money put aside, you have what's called optionality. Optionality means you have options if something goes wrong. If you have some cash put aside, you have optionality. You're not dead basically if something bad happens. So try to look at number 5 to cut costs, and then save money, especially during the higher times of the year, especially in the spring months. And the final point is more of an emotional one, but one where I have definitely made some mistakes in my career, which is when bad things happen, you can sometimes get a bit freaked out. Especially if you have, I have anxiety, so I get kind of triggered by different things that happen to me. And I've definitely learned as I've got older is to stay calm. Take a few deep breaths, have a walk, sleep on it, take a bit of extra time to review the data and what's happening and come up with a plan and then execute the plan. And then if, some parts of the plan aren't working, change the plan. But, act in this kind of very rational way, and don't let your emotions take over you when things are coming at you. It's just part of the challenges and of being a business owner. And over time, it's kind of these challenging times that you will look back on proudly and tell the stories about later. We do have a number of free ebooks that are available, which I would recommend you looking at. There is one specifically for recession survival guide, if you're worried about that. We've talked through some of the stuff in the seasonality one today. There's also a good one on our website in the ebook section under the resources tab on artemis.co. Which talks about how to market your business, which I think is another key thing that we've discussed today. Yeah, so next up, we're going to hear from Dan, who is an expert in tax. This is a very important area. So sometimes people, I think, don't think about it enough, but you end up giving away 30, 40, 50% of your money to the tax man or the IRS. And so doing some planning around this is really important.
Simon, thank you very much, and I appreciate it. And we're CPAs and certified tax coaches, and we teach our clients to live tax deductibly. That's our focus. And I always start with a little joke, and I say, what do the IRS, a mugger, and your kids have in common? They all take your money. And today we're going to talk about how the IRS can take less of our money moving forward. Okay, a little background about our firm. I have a great staff. We've been around for 30 years. Most of my crew, 5 of 8 of my crew, have been with me for 15 plus years. And we're fully staffed, ready to go. And one thing I will tell you, we are a remote firm, so we can handle clients across the country, and we do handle clients across the country. And as Simon pointed out, believe it or not, as crazy as it sounds, most businesses pay 40% of their profit to the government in tax. Their taxes are think about that. 40 cents of every dollar you earn goes to the government. That's absolutely nuts. So let's talk about how we can lower that 40%. Depreciation is basically it's a tax write-off. You can lower your income by depreciation. If you have a phone bill, okay, there's different write-offs for different assets. If you have a phone bill, your monthly Verizon bill, okay, that's a monthly bill. Anything that has a life of less than a year is written off in 1 year, in one shot in the year. But a medical device, per the IRS, has a life, typically the life of medical devices are 7 years. So in my example, I said if you buy a $70,000 piece of equipment, on average, you're going to be able to write off $10,000 a year over 7 years, which will save you anywhere from $2,700 to $4,200. But what the government did, they came out with this Section 179 to accelerate the write-off of your medical device. So Section 179 allows you to take that $70,000 medical device that you purchased, okay, that you own, and literally you can buy it with $1 and finance $69,999, or you can pay $70,000 in cash. Either way, whether you buy it or finance it, you can write off under Section 179 the entire amount, $70,000. So instead of having a tax savings of $2,000 to $4,000, you're looking at a tax savings of 18 to 29,000, depending on what your tax bracket is. That's huge. Literally, the Section 179 is the single best tax loophole and benefit out there for business owners today. It does expire at the end of this year. They probably will renew it to some extent, but you want to take advantage of it if you're looking to buy a medical device, or if you have income this year and you want to lower your income and give less to the government. It's a great way to do it. So really, my advice, we're in the fourth quarter. You want to look at your tax situation now. You want to have and decide what you want to do. If you have income this year, the time to talk to your accountant is now. Talk to your accountant, do a tax planning session, and save money. The money spent on a tax planning session now with your accountant will be the most valuable thing you can do to save money. Planning is always best done before the year ends and not after the year ends. And if you think you've got a lot of income and you want to talk about a 5-year run and look at how you can save the $75,000, then you want to talk to one of the 500 certified tax coaches across the country to save you $75,000 over the next 5 years. But do something now, take a look now. The last thing I want to mention, you can either own your medical device, buy it, or you can rent it under a subscription model. If you rent it under a subscription model, the only thing you're getting as a deduction is the monthly rent payment. So if you buy it in December and the payment is $500 a month, you're getting a deduction for $500 a month. If you own it and you buy the equipment, the medical device, you're going to get a deduction of $70,000 and you'll save $18,000 to $40,000 in tax. That's a big difference. So there's a big benefit to owning your medical device versus renting it or a subscription plan.
Okay, so as Simon informed you, we have the Artemis.co website where we're building some assets to help you grow your business, manage your business, and some really fantastic tools. The one that I have linked here is actually a calculator. It's made actually by Brick House, and it's on our website. And it basically, you type in the amount of money that you'd like to borrow, and what that deduction would be for that 179, Section 179. And Dustin's going to tell you how to get access to money pretty quickly through lending and his resources.
This is just from our website, kind of details the industries that we serve, primarily a lot of medical and aesthetic equipment, as well as some other industries, but we certainly have a focus in the wellness industry, so we understand it. If we talk about subscription first, so it's a risk-free access to the device with unlimited usage, but you have a slightly higher monthly payment or cost associated with that unlimited usage. So if we look for, take CryoSkin for example, so it's $1,500 a month under the subscription program. $750 of that is a credit toward paying off that current device, or it can be applied to any Artemis device. The other $750 is the charge for the unlimited sessions or access to the use of that device. So that's the rental program essentially that Dan was talking about earlier. So the credit requirements for the subscription program for a partner that's just entering as a partner with Artemis, there are more lenient credit requirements than the permanent finance option. So the subscription, there's no risk. You can return it at any time. There's unlimited usage, but it comes at a higher cost. It's $750 a month or $9,000 a year of cost. So how does that compare to financing? So permanent financing, one way to determine if permanent financing is the way for you to go is when you decide you want to keep that device and you own it. You've tested it out with a subscription. You decided, I've got the clients for this. I want to own this device. I don't want to rent it through the subscription model anymore. So it's a similar structure to a car loan. So you can pay it back over 24, 36, 48, or 60 months, and then the device is yours at the end of that term. So let's look at the same CryoSkin example, but the financing. So if you purchase the CryoSkin approximately, and every credit situation is a little bit different, but by and large, you're going to pay $650 a month for 48 months. We have the other term options that I mentioned above, but $650 a month for 48 months. So that's an annual interest cost of $1,500 versus the $9,000 cost of the subscription. So you can see it's a much lower cost device. So much lower payment, Simon was talking about cutting costs, and this is a good way to do it. And as Dan said, it's Section 179 eligible. So you can take the entire deduction for the total cost of that machine in the current calendar year. Let's look at the credit requirements. So if your company has 2 or more years in business, then we need a 650 credit score, a medium 4-figure average bank balance, and consistent monthly deposits coming in. So that way we can, demonstrate that you have active revenue. And then now if the company is under 2 years in business, it falls into that startup business category. We can still provide financing for startups, but we need a 700 credit score, much higher liquidity. Generally, the rule of thumb is you should have about 75% of the requested financed amount in the bank as reserves. That way you can continue to fund your personal liabilities and those new business liabilities that you're taking on. And then you should have relevant industry experience, and home ownership is preferred, it's not required. So how do you make that transition then from the subscription? How do I finance this machine from the beginning? So if you look at the point number 1 there, it's just the short credit application. It's online. Also, you could, if you're already working with an Artemis rep, they can make an introduction to us. We can set up a quick call, and they'll usually email that link to you on that introduction.